write in pink this time. Okay, so sine and cosine. Look at the formulas. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Let's write it right here. Sine of an angle is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. So popping back up here to this picture where we're just looking at the letters on the sides, A, B, C. Sine says opposite over hypotenuse. From angle A, what is opposite? From angle A, little a, what's the hypotenuse? C. From angle B, what's the opposite? Little b, what's the hypotenuse? C. That's sine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Cosine of angle A. Now it can't be the hypotenuse. Remember, that's the hypotenuse. What's cosine of angle A? Little b over C. Cosine of angle B, little a over C. The first three practice problems are where we're just practicing putting the fractions in. We're not solving. So let's do it. We've got sine A, cosine A, sine C, cosine C. You want to make sure you're not messing up. Maybe do all the sines first, then do the cosines. It's up to you how you want to jump around. I'm going to do sine A first. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So my attention is from A. What's opposite? 5. What's the hypotenuse? 13. You want to jump to sine C or you want to jump to cosine A? What do you want to do? Sine C. Alright, so now I'm focusing my attention from C. Still doing the sine formula. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. What's opposite of C? 12. What's the hypotenuse? Cosine's adjacent over hypotenuse. What's adjacent to A? 12. What's the hypotenuse? 13. Cosine C. Adjacent to C. 5. Hypotenuse. 13. I would like to at least show you the solving. We would technically do 2 and 3, but I want to make sure you see a solving problem because I want you to see it's exactly the same. So go to the back. Go to number 4. Here's the biggest question that people say when I turn them loose to start doing all these. They'll say, how do I know when to use which one? Well, I gave you a very clear way of knowing when to use tangent, right? You already know when to use tangent. When the hypotenuse is blank. When the hypotenuse is not blank, clearly it's sine or cosine. How do you know when to use which one? Label your triangle with the sides that have info, and then you're going to know which one. So watch. Draw your arrow to the hypotenuse. There is something there, so I'm going to put an H to let me know I definitely have a hypotenuse. Then I'm going to go to my little acute angle, and I'm just going to draw an arc to remind me, okay, I'm focusing from here. Ask yourself, how is X positioned to the angle where I just did an arc? It is opposite. Does everyone see that? So I'm going to put an O for opposite. Now, which trig function used opposite and hypotenuse? Sine. That's how you know what you're using. This would be sine angle measure equals fraction bar, and if you've labeled it, you just plug them in. Opposite over hypotenuse. And now you can see how it's the exact same thing as before. So you don't have to flip back and forth to the front. Let me show you a way to write the formulas on the back in a way that, like, you can see all of them. Watch this. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. So if you'll write that at the top, it kind of helps you to know when you're using which one. You also don't have to flip back and forth to the front of the paper. So I would solve this like normal. I'd cross multiply with my elbow arrow. That number would go away and would come over here. And I would type 19 sine 28 in my calculator.
So is the sine S-I-N?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is a sin to call it sin, because it's not sin, it's sine. Long I. So type in 19 sine 28, and do you get 8.9? Alright, number 6. Definitely not tangent. Draw your arrow. This is a hypotenuse. Now they didn't put the 21 in the corner, but technically 21 would be like right here. If it bothers you, you can write it there. But that 21 is the angle. Then the side that's not labeled, you say, what do I need to label it? It's either opposite or it's opposite or adjacent, right? So you say to yourself, how is this side X positioned to the angle 21? It's adjacent, it's right next to it, it's touching it. So you're going to put an A. Then you're going to look at your formulas at the top of your paper and say which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse. C for cosine. So set it up. Cosine, angle, equals fraction bar, adjacent over hypotenuse. And then you already know how to solve it. Whatever's in the bottom of the fraction cross multiplies to the front. And in this case it was a number, which means I can go straight to my calculator. If it was the X, you would have to do one additional step. Did you get 24.3?
Yeah.
So the paper that I'm actually going to look for is the 55, page 55. And you would finish the ones that we left blank.